My check 1212. It's the Y2K collector. Just got back from doing a little bit of thrifting. Tried to find some more cheap cases so that I could do some case swaps with some of the games that I have in my collection. And then also tried to see if I could find a couple games for trade bait. So while I was there, they had a complete in-box copy of Star Wars Battlefront, the Platinum Hits version. I typically don't pick these games up, but this one was super clean, just extremely clean. It had all of the, manual pamphlets, all the inserts in there, and the disc, which now I'm a little nervous because I didn't even check the disc. But I'm going to assume that this disc is in good condition, and it is. It's in like new condition. So this is a like new copy of the Star Wars Battlefront game. I'm not opposed to Star Wars games. I actually think some of the most fun games are Star Wars games. I think because these games are based on a very popular movie franchise, they get a little bit of they get discounted a little bit. But this one is actually pretty cool. So definitely going to be keeping this one. I think this one's going to go into the collection for sure. And then found this sealed copy of Gears of War 3. Now, I think the sealed copy of Gears of War 3 isn't like super valuable or anything like that. I know the sealed copy of Gears of War 3, the platinum version, I think that one goes for like about 30 bucks. But a lot of these like games, like the Gears of War games, were really popular for their online co-op play. These were games that you played with your friends online back in the day, super competitive. I don't know if this is what took over after like Halo died down, because I've never been into like first-person shooter type games. But I know Halo was like the big thing back when it first came out. That was something everyone played. Well, I guess if we were gonna go even further back, GoldenEye was really like the first-person shooter like game of choice. That was the one that you played with all your friends. And then after GoldenEye, then it was Halo. I remember Halo being like the game to play, everyone being all over Halo. And then after Halo, I think it became Gears of War. Now, Call of Duty might have been in there somewhere, but again, I'm not a first-person shooter connoisseur. You guys can let me know down in the comments what the order was. But then I just remember Gears of War having its heyday. I remember everyone talking about Gears of War, all the competition, you can't beat me in Gears of War, all that type of thing. Because I was never into these types of games, it just never, it never really stuck with me. But I picked this one up because it will be trade bait. I'm not going to be trading this in at a GameStop, but I do have a place that is local to me that I think will buy this game and give me a good price for it, especially with it being sealed. So I picked that one up for trade bait. I'm looking forward to doing that. And then, yeah, pretty soon I'm going to be taking this batch of games that I've picked up over the past few days and archiving them down into the storage room. A few of these I've been playing over the past few days, and a lot of these, a good chunk of these were all like, I want to say almost all of these games were GameStop finds. I know everything in this row going all the way down. Yep, GameStop. Yeah, so pretty much all of these games were all GameStop finds. A lot of these were picked up during their buy two, get one, their 4 under 20 for 40, things like that. There were a few onesies and twosies that I just paid for using just the $5 or the 5% pro member discount. I think, which one was it? I think Silent Hill was one of those ones. As well as Silent Hill Downpour was another one of those ones that I just paid for. But the rest of these were all picked up on promo. Ultimate Alliance was definitely a good pickup. I didn't realize how much this game went up on PlayStation 3. I just don't know why. But it's become like a $40 game. It's been going up. I'm not too sure why. But definitely glad to have been able to pick those up. And then the 360 pickups were just crazy during the month of August and September. Found so many really cool games there as well. And I kind of just wanted to talk about why the separation between collectible video games and everything else that's collectible, because it almost seems like when people think about collectible items or collectible toys, we think about collectible Tonka trucks, we think about collectible comic books, we think about baseball cards, basketball cards, but it's not too common for video games to be clumped into that collectible toys category for whatever reason. And it hasn't really been until like recent history where I think people are starting to recognize video games more and more. Obviously, these massive sales at these auction houses where original copies of Mario and stuff are being sold for millions of dollars, obviously all of that does help when it comes to video games being recognized for their collectible status. But I think the thing that separates video games from like baseball cards and comic books and stuff like that is that a lot of those items, with the exception of like a Tonka truck, a lot of those items are meant to just be looked at. Like there's really not much more you're gonna do with a baseball card other than look at it, read it, and trade it. There's not much more interaction that you're gonna have with that. With comic books, it's a little bit different. I mean, a comic book, you can read it, but once you've read it, it's like, how many times are you going to read it, right? So, and then when you start to think about like figurines, action figures and stuff like that, again, you can play with action figures and let your imagination, run wild. And, that's definitely things we would have done as a kid. But a lot of the collectibles, that fall into like that the collectible toys categories, a lot of those collectibles are meant to just be looked at. And I think the nature of video games is what kind of separates it from those categories, because video games are by nature meant to be interacted with. That's the sole purpose of a video game, is for you to interact with it, for you to take it out of the plastic and play the game. And so I think that's why when we see sealed retro games, games that never had a digital option, games that never had a downloadable option, I think that's why when we see those sealed games, they're so valuable, because especially pre-internet, video games were meant to be taken out their package and played. So if it was sealed, a lot of times it was either left sealed by accident. There was an overstock. I mean, don't get me wrong. Collectors weren't just born yesterday or 10 years ago. I'm sure there were people who were purposefully keeping things sealed back in the 80s and 90s in anticipation that the value would increase. But overall, the idea with video games was for them to be played. Also, I don't know if any of the other collectible industries, I don't know if there was a big toy crash, and there might have been. Someone could let me know down in the comments. I know that there was a period in history where comic books had hit a rough patch and they weren't as popular. But I know that the video game crash was very widely known. And I feel like the video game crash was also not that long ago in history. I think it was the 80s, right? Was when that video game crash happened. So, the video game industry as a whole, when you think back to that time, has always kind of been looked at as like either things for kids, not really worth as much, because just up until the last maybe 15 to 20 years, a lot of video games were selling for super cheap, for $1.25. It was only the really, really well-known rare games that were selling for pricey amounts. And now we have, we're in a time where there are so many video games across so many systems that have significant value, that I think, I feel like when it comes to video games, folks who are into collectibles are still trying to figure out where a lot of these things fall, because I'm sure like if I took a sealed and graded copy of Blood Will Tell to an auction house, they're not really gonna, you know, most auction houses, most folks aren't gonna be knowledgeable enough to really know like what the value is. I feel like the gaming community, you know, kind of sets its own market, creates its own market, sets its own values and things like that. And if you're almost like if you're not a part of the community, then you really won't know how to rank games or where they fall in terms of their of how collectible they are. So I don't know. I feel like, you know, all of these factors just kind of create this separation between video games and all the other collectible toys and things that, you know, you might see out there. But maybe I'm absolutely wrong. Maybe I'm just misinformed. You guys let me know down in the comments. Do you think that, you know, by and large, video games are kind of clumped into the collectibles class, like with toys and comic books and baseball cards? Or do you think that video games are still somewhat separated and kind of viewed, you know, in their own, kind of like in their own niche? I'm interested to know your thoughts. The Y2K Collector. Hopefully you're having a great day. It's Friday. The weather is beautiful. So hopefully you get out today. I plan on hanging out this afternoon with the kiddos, maybe going to the park, some swings, some slides, the whole 9 yards. But I'll be circling back with you in the next video. Take it easy.